this video, I'm going to go over some of the key concepts to lifestyle change. The lifestyle part of the Lymphatic Lifestyle Solutions online program. You're going to learn some things in this video that you can put to use right now. And it will also give you a little bit of insight in how we operate to make these lifestyle changes actually happen and to get the results we're getting. It's not all about knowing the technicalities about foods and the ketogenic diet. Those are really important. But as we all know, it's also a matter of trying to figure out how to actually make these changes. A lot of us have a general idea of what changes we should make, but the big question is, how do we actually make it happen? So let me share some slides with you and some of the things I've learned as in 20 years as an occupational therapist and working as a life coach and help people make changes in their lives. So the way I'm going to go over this is we're going to think about it as a three-legged stool. I have found that there are three components that are especially important in making lifestyle changes. This will be a very abbreviated version of that. So the first leg of the three-legged stool of lifestyle change is to learn the concept of focusing on the right thing. So first, let's have some statistics here. So this is from the CDC. In America, 70% of people age 55 to 65 have at least one chronic condition. 50% have two or more chronic conditions. In 2016, we spent $1.1 trillion for direct healthcare treatment for chronic health conditions. The most expensive of those is diabetes. Lymphedema, of course, is one of those chronic illnesses that we're talking about there. So this is a really interesting study to me by the CDC, and it determines what makes us sick. So health determines as a percentage of mortality. And here's what they found. 30% of the reason for why we get different illnesses is genetics. 15% is social circumstances. 5% is environmental conditions. And here's the two really interesting ones. So we're left now with 50% of the pie. So half of it are genetics and social and environmental circumstances. But here's the big surprise to a lot of people. 40% of our health is determined by our behavioral choices. So in other words, our habits and what we do determines 40% of our health. 10% is determined by access to medical care. And this was a global study. So they really could compare people that did not have access to medical care the way we do in America. So that leaves a pretty big chunk for us to work on, the 40%. So remember, the first leg of the stool is to focus on the right thing. So we'll get to that. So how does this relate to lymphedema then? We're also learning that the number one cause for lymphedema or contributing factor to lymphedema is obesity. We're going to look at some more of that. So when it comes to chronic illness, until we can find a miracle cure for the chronic illness that we're suffering with, we're back to basics, those behavioral choices. So there are things like exercise, sleep, maintaining our mental health, our physical health, staying connected with other people, socializing, proven to improve our health. Stress management is an important part, and probably the number one is eating right. So those are the basic concepts. That's the approach that is the most effective for chronic illness. So if lifestyle change can improve lymphedema, obesity, diabetes, and most other chronic illnesses, why doesn't everyone do it? Well, I think we kind of know the answer, because that's very difficult to do. It's a lot more difficult than taking a pill or having surgery. So that's been our thinking for a long time, is what medicine will fix this? What surgery will fix this? But we can't solve our problems with the same thinking that we used when we created them. Quote by Albert Einstein. So in this course, I'm hoping that we're going to do a bit of a paradigm shift in how we're thinking about our lymphedema or other chronic illnesses that we have. So focus on the right thing is the leg. So you may have heard of the circle of influence, the circle of concern. This is a universal truth, I believe, that when we focus on the things that we can do something about, we end up gaining more influence and more control over things in our life, including our health. When we focus on the things that we cannot do anything about, that circle tends to shrink. We end up getting less influence and less control over things in our life. So that to focus on the things we can influence, that's a proactive focus. To focus on things that we cannot influence, that's a reactive focus. We're just reacting to what's coming our way. I would say this is the key principle. That's the difference between people that do well in therapy, in rehabilitation, and in lifestyle change, is where you can put your focus. But hopefully through a program, we can help to shift the focus in that direction. So how does this relate then to health, obesity, and lymphedema, this circle of influence that we're talking about? So let's think about what are some things, some risk factors. We looked at that CDC model, the 40%, that's the part that we can do something about. So let's break down that little purple part of that, that graph that we were looking at. There are things we cannot do anything about. Remember, half the circle were things that we really can't do much about. So those are there. Those are things like family history, surgical history. So if we have lymphedema because of a surgery we had, we can't go and reverse that or change that. It's very little we can do on a surgical level. Environmental exposures, built environment, medication effects. We can't choose how a medicine works on us. Our gender, age, ethnicity, and social history. Those are things we can't change. So risk factors that we can influence. So one more word about the things we can't change. That means some may take this idea and make a guilt trip out of it and say, well, are you saying it's my fault that I'm sick? No, not at all. There's a big part of the pie that we couldn't choose. So no, it's not our fault. It's not our fault that we had to have surgery. Maybe we had cancer. That's not our fault. The idea is to focus on that one part that we can do something about, because that's where we're going to get the results. So what are some of the things we can do something about? We can influence our weight and our body composition. And that is that can have a tremendous impact on lymphedema. You're going to learn about the research to back up that statement. Stress management, coping strategies. So stress causes inflammation, causes chronic illness. There's been so much fantastic research in that area. We can do something with that. So we can do something with our diet. We can actually influence our sleep. We can influence our physical activity. We can influence our blood pressure indirectly, and you learn ways to do that. Social activity, we can choose how much social activity have and leisure. Those are examples of things that we can influence. So that's where we're going to be focusing in this 12-week Lymphatic Lifestyle Solutions program. So that was the first leg, is to focus on the right thing. What's the second leg? You have to believe that it's possible. If you go in to start making changes, but you really don't believe that it can be done, then chances are the changes won't happen. So there is a famous quote, I believe it's Henry Ford, that if you believe you can, or if you believe you can't, you're right. But how do you change that? You can't just talk yourself into it. You might need the help of a coach or a program. Okay, so where are we at on the confidence steps? We can be at the bottom where we feel like I won't do it or I can't do it, but we can work our way up. We can't just flip a switch and say, I believe this now. We may have to work our way up, and we may need some help to get to that point where we go from I can't do it to I'll try to do it to I think I can do it and I will do it, and until we did it. It's possible. So, and we know it's possible because we've seen the results. And I hope you'll watch our results video that we also have, so that you also can see that it is possible. But now you have to also believe it's possible for you. So What are those thoughts that come as to why we don't really believe we can do it? So those we can call limiting beliefs, and those are big obstacles that stand in our way, and they're real. So we might say to ourselves, well, I can't do it, I'm too old. Or we might say, I have bone and bone arthritis. How am I supposed to lose weight? I can't walk or exercise. Or maybe we say, well, I have diabetes and that makes it hard to lose weight. Or it's in my genetics, or I just don't have the willpower. You won't believe how often I hear that I don't have willpower. Or I've tried many times before and I've failed. And I would say that's true with majority of the participants in the group. I usually ask what they've tried before, and it's usually a pretty long list of things that they've tried before and failed. So naturally we get discouraged. So let's start with the first one. I'm too old. The age spread in the participants in the groups here in the clinic that have made these lifestyle changes is on this chart. The majority of our participants are in their 70s, and we have some that are in their 80s. So 60 to 90, that's where the most of them are, but we have all ages. So they've proven to us that it's possible at any age. Another thing that we might say, especially if we've experienced a lot of times where we've lost weight and we've gained it back and we've lost and gained it back, is that we hate to try again because we're just going to gain it back. Well, we've been tracking that after this program, and as you can see on this slide, up to 5 months, and we have more data on this now, even much further, that most of the participants continue to lose weight after the program is over, after the 12 weeks. So it doesn't seem to be the case in this program with this method that we're using that the weight comes back right away. And you'll understand why. Compliance. We are sometimes afraid, again, that fear of failure. I don't know if I'll stick with it. So as far as compliance, when we first started this, our very first classes in 2020, I had 26 people that joined the program. 20 of those followed through with the program. That's 78%. So we might say, oh, 6 people dropped out. When the compliance, that is a higher compliance than prescription medicine. So more people followed through on this program than statistically how many people take medicine that are prescribed to them. That's a pretty good compliance rate. Then we have the question about diabetes. What if I have diabetes? Well, we have seen improvement with diabetes with most of the ones that have participated. This program actually, although we're focusing a lot on lymphedema as a positive side effect, it usually improves diabetes. And you can see some of the statistics on this, or this is a case example here. One lady that was on 40 units of insulin and she came off. She is no longer taking insulin. So diabetes is not a roadblock for this. And then what about willpower? We all tend to be really hard on ourselves and say that I don't have willpower. Willpower is pretty interesting. You're going to learn things about willpower in this program. A good lifestyle program does not depend on super willpower. It's not just a matter of, just suck it up and do it. You got to learn the techniques on how to do it. So one way to work on that is that small changes over a long period of time can have tremendous impact on our health. Willpower, turns out, it actually strengthens with practice and recovers. If you don't feel like you have willpower, that's not a hopeless situation. There are ways to actually improve willpower. We need some of it. And we can also learn to plan around it. So understanding how that works will help us along the way. So, and then we have that big one. I've tried before and I've failed. So I'm gonna throw out just some quotes for you to chew on. Success is not the absence of failure. Learn ways to use previous failures as a learning experience. People that do that tend to do really well with these kind of things. If we aim for a big change and we make small change, we're still better off than not trying. That's an argument that we can use against that part of us that wants to say, I'd rather not try because I don't want to fail. But what if we try and we partially make it? That's still better than if we didn't make it at 100%. That perfectionist in us wants us to not even try. The only guaranteed failure is to not try at all. So fear of failure can become our prison, makes us not even try. And what are we missing out on? So that was the second leg. And I'm going to give you the third leg. And that is, you have to have a reason why. So if you're thinking about signing up for this Lymphatic Lifestyle Solutions online program, you can already now start to prepare by thinking, why do you want to do this? Because if you have a strong why, you will definitely be one of the ones that succeeds and gets the results. So, and it might seem too obvious. We might think, well, why do I want to do this program? When I want to lose weight, or I want to improve my lymphedema, I don't want to have so much swelling. Well, why do you want to reduce your weight or reduce your lymphedema? Well, I want to be less sick. I want to be sick less often. Well, why do you want to be sick less often? It may seem like a dumb question, but let's think about it. You want to improve your labs. Why? Why do you want better numbers on your labs? You want to be less dependent on medications. Why do you want to be less dependent on medications? You want to move better. Now we're getting closer to things that really begin to matter. You want to be able to do more. And if you're thinking, I want to be able to do more, then go further and think, what do you want to do more of? And why do you want to do more of that? You want to feel better more often, which all of our participants have said that they feel better more often after completing the program. Why do you want to feel better more often? And when you keep asking that question, why, you're going to start getting into things that really matter in your heart. And the reason goes from your heart to from your brain to your heart. And that's when you find that motivation to keep going when the going gets tough. So think about those questions and think about, how would it impact those around you? Where would you go if you felt better? What would you do? What would that be like? You have to visualize it. How could it impact your finances if you were sick less often? Medical bills, prescriptions. Imagine this lady that came off of 40 units of insulin, the cost savings on that, if you're just thinking dollar amounts. And could it be an inspiration to others? That's been a lot of participants are very inspired by helping others. So when people around you see your change, you may help them, those loved ones that you kind of wish they would also make some changes. You may not have to say anything, but maybe they see what you're doing and they become inspired. So that was a short crash insight in some of those sides, the lifestyle change sides of this program, and I hope you will join us.